So welcome to another edition of the Working Parents Network presentation. Today we will be talking about tips for choosing the right summer camps and activities. So our objectives for today is to assist parents to learn about camps, activities, and how to select a good fit for your child or your children. We're also going to help you acknowledge your motivations and your child's interests and needs. Also, an objective is to acknowledge possible pitfalls, hiccups, or challenges when it comes to selecting summer camps and activities for your child. And then consider the practical, realistic fit of the camps for your child. I pause with this picture just to acknowledge that we know there's different types of families. And the different types of families have different needs. So when you talk about camp basics, there's different types of camps and then there's different categories of camps. So the different types of camps, you have day camps, overnight camps, partial day camps, all day camps, you have regional, local, statewide. And when you think about a partial day camp, that's the camp that may be open, say 9 to 12 or 1 to 4, 1 to 3. And then an all-day camp may be open from like 8 to 5. And sometimes the all-day camps don't cover your entire workday. So they may open like 8 o'clock start time, or maybe it's like a 9 to 4. And so oftentimes those camps will have an early drop-off or early or late pickup option. Sometimes they charge extra for that, and other times they do not. So those are just questions you want to ask, you want to confirm. When it comes to camp categories, there's a ton of categories, and sometimes knowing the categories and depending on the type of camps you're looking for your child, you may not care about the type of camp. You may be like a general camp that has a variety of activities is fine with me. Or you may say, I want a camp that's more academic focused. And academic could be a very specific type of academics. It could be STEM related, for example, or it could be just a math camp or an arts camp or what have you. There's adventure camps, is usually a lot of outdoor activities or a lot of creation or crafts, those types of camps. There's religious camps, military, service, sports, special needs, and sometimes sports, we call them athletic camps. So there's a ton of different categories of camps. So when you're thinking about camps, again, you may not even care about the category necessarily, or you may specifically be looking for a certain type. Some other things to consider before choosing a camp. You want to always think about your child's interest. What are they into? What are they like? And one of the reasons you want to think about their interest is you're more likely to get less resistance from the child if you sign them up for a camp that piques their interest. At least in an initial way, right? Sometimes they may go to a camp and they don't know that they may like an activity, and you may be stretching them a little bit and sign them up for something that they haven't tried before, but you think they might like. But then there's other times when for example, they really like tennis or they really like soccer, they really like arts and crafts or what have you. So you sign them up for a camp that specifically focuses on that. The camp may do other activities as well, but just think about their interests. Also, their personality. Are they more outgoing? Are they more reserved? Just kind of think about that in terms of the activities that are being offered at the camp. So, for example, if you have a child that's very kind of reserved or they don't like a lot of people, or they don't like a lot of stimulation, and then you put them in a camp where they're being stimulated all day, that's going to wear them out, and it may potentially be very frustrating for them and even the camp leaders. So that's just something to think about as well. If they're in a camp where they're outside all day and your child hates being outside, that's just something to think about when you're doing a comparison. And there's different reasons we know that parents select camps, but also just think about, when I sign my child up, this is gonna help, or is it gonna potentially be a concern later on? Their abilities or skills, special needs, and then their maturity level. Those are things to think about. You want to think about also, how does your child deal with stress? How do they deal with transitions? Are they able to follow directions? How are they with schedules? Are they able to stay on schedule? Do they do well with schedules? Sometimes children that don't do well with schedules also have concerns with transitions. So it doesn't mean they cannot go to camp or be successful in camp, but it may just be something where you want to let the camp leaders know that my child has concerns with transitions or they're stressed very easily or whatever the case may be. It helps you to help them to help the child be successful in the camp. Also, you want to things to consider when it comes to the parents. How ready are you to send your child to camp or a summer activity? I say camp or summer activity because it could just be some activity that's offered once or twice and they go for half a day or a full day and that's it. It's not considered a camp per se. So there's a lot of those that occur during the summer as well. And you may be more comfortable to even start your child with a 1 or 2 day activity just to get them used to interacting with others and being away from you. And so that's something to consider. And then what are your motivations for sending them to camp? Is it you simply need childcare? And if that is the motivation, that is okay. It's okay. That is oftentimes the motivation for most parents. You need childcare over the summer because your child is a school-age child and you need to figure out what they're going to do over the summer because they're not in school. So, is that your motivation? And sometimes because of that, you got to think about the type of camps that you're selecting. But also you want to think about your personal finances and your family schedule. Does your family have vacation scheduled or trips scheduled or family visits scheduled? Whatever you have, when you're thinking about these camps, you want to think about what do we have going on as a family this summer? And then, when are these camps offered? Because some camps are only offered 1 or 2 weeks a summer. They're not offered every single week. There are some other camps that are offered every single week or the majority of the summer. So that is just something to keep in mind that all camps are not offered all summer. Some may be offered 1 week the whole summer. And so what parents often will do is they create a schedule, a camp schedule for their child or their children. And they may say for the first week of June, you go on to this camp. The second and third week of June, you go on to this one. The fourth week of June, you go on to this one. And they're all different camps. So, and of course, that's where the personal finances come into play. Because if you're going to have to send them to something like that where they're going to different things all the time, that's going to add up. And so you want to just kind of consider, are you saving money towards the summer expense of sending them to a different camp or camps all summer? And then there are camps that run all summer, such as the YMCA, so there's some that you can kind of sign up for the whole summer. Also, let's just say you do have a couple of weeks where you want to send them to a specialty camp, and the rest of the weeks they go to the Y. That's fine as well. So those are things to think about. When it comes to the camp details, you also want to always know the exact time, very specifically. What are the times? Are there penalties for picking your child up late? Are there penalties for dropping your child off early? Or are there things for your child to do if you drop them off early or pick them up late? So you just want to ask questions about the time and the schedule and the ages that are recommended. I say recommended ages because sometimes camps will have age ranges. They may say from 6 to 12, for example. But then when you talk to them a little bit more or you learn about the activities that the child will be participating in, you may find it's actually better for, I would say, 8 to 12 versus 6 to 12. Or it's actually kind of more interesting for 6 to 10 versus, 10 to 12. So it's just good to kind of dig a little deeper sometimes thinking about your child's age and depending on the activities that are going to happen at that camp, is it kind of a better fit for a younger child versus an older child, even though the range is there. So that's something to think about. And then there's all these things in terms of camp details, the activities that they're going to do, the skills needed to participate. Oftentimes they can learn skills at camp. That's one of the wonderful benefits. They may not know how to do a lot of different things, but by the end of that week or by the end of the time at that camp, they may have developed a lot of skills. So that may work out just fine. What will they require to participate? Sometimes they may say, bring a water bottle, bring an extra towel, bring extra whatever. And the camps will tell you all of that. They'll tell you, here's what you need. And sometimes they'll say, here's some additional things that you may consider sending. And then they also will tell you what not to send. So some camps may say, do not send your child with their personal phone if they have a phone. Or they may say, do not send them with flip-flops on because they need closed-toe shoes. So they will tell you all of those details, so you don't have to worry about any of that. You may want to ask about the staff to camp ratio, what's flexible, what's not. So, can you send them 3 days out of the 5 days, or do they have to go to 5 days? If you only send your child 3 of the 5 days, do you still have to pay for 5 days, or is there like a prorated option? So you want to, ask those kinds of questions. Do they have any type of discounts? Do they offer discount to UK employees, or do they offer other types of discounts? Sometimes it could be a sibling discount or certain other types of discounts, military discount, veteran discount, all types of discounts. But you just want to ask about that. And then transportation, do they plan to transport your child to the pool once a week, take them to the park once or twice a week? Any of those kinds of things, because that also may be an extra cost, a fee, or they may need extra activities or extra clothing or anything like that. So there's a lot of camp details that you want to make sure you are aware of. And oftentimes you're going to get this pretty easily, and it's not going to be a big deal. You just ask for it. And even without asking, most of the time they're going to give this information to you. So my little question here says, what else should you consider? What else? There's a lot of other things to consider based on your child, based on your family, based on your needs. And you probably can think of one or two things pretty quickly without even trying hard. All right, so things to think about when you're preparing as a parent. First of all, plan ahead. So for the two parents that said that they're looking ahead for next summer, wonderful. Know the types of camps that are out there, determine if it is time to send your child to camp, find out, talk to your child about the camp options that you're considering. Be ready to deal with the emotions, the separation anxiety, the mixed emotions. It's very possible that your child is excited to go to a camp and then the morning of, they don't want to go. Because they are just they having mixed emotions. They're feeling some anxiety, they're a little nervous. And that's very normal. And you get to say, it'll be fine. Let's just, you get to kind of coax them and keep moving. But just know that that could happen. It doesn't mean that they don't actually want to go. They're just nervous and fearful now, and that could happen. And then know how the camp will communicate with you. Are they going to text you, call you? Do they have like a daily summary they give you? Do they have some updates that they put on their website that you can check out? Do they have a social media page, or they have a special site you can go to and see pictures throughout the day, or whatever? Just kind of know how they are going to communicate. And then, of course, when it comes to choosing a camp, this is what we're talking about today. You want to do your research, you want to consider your budget, your child's interests, and so forth. I put this little slide in here talking about preschool summer camp programs, just to really make the point that sometimes the age range wise, preschool camps are a little different than school age camps. And so if you have a preschooler, there are some preschool options. They are very limited because oftentimes preschool age children are in some sort of a full-time daycare facility or opportunity. But there are a few that will take children that are like 4 years old, for example, or even 5 years old that maybe haven't started kindergarten yet. And so those are available. And so the main point here is just to know that there are some options there. They are more limited than the others, though. So parent-to-parent tips. Ask your child if they even want to go to camp. And as a parent, sometimes you may say, you're going, and that's okay. But sometimes just knowing where they are and being able to prepare them can be really helpful. Also, you want to consider not sending them to a camp simply because their sibling went to that camp or that activity. Their sibling may have a completely different personality and may have thought that camp was fabulous. And this current child you're considering sending may be like, no way, that is not for me. So if you're thinking about should I send them or not, maybe sending them just because their sibling went is not a good idea. But on the parenting side, it may be good because you're familiar with that camp. You're familiar with the process. You're familiar with the activities. So sometimes those are reasons why parents will choose to send their children to the same camps because they're familiar with it. And maybe that's a good reason. And then consider how they get along with others. Their maturity level and their mental health is huge. looking for the discounts. Can your child attend with a friend to help with transition? So maybe you have they have a best friend or a buddy or somebody that they go to school with, or neighborhood friend. Maybe they can go to the same activity or the same camp. That gives them a built-in buddy. So sometimes that also helps ease that transition. Also, when you consider touring the camps, going in advance to take a look at the surrounding, the activities, ask questions, just kind of be in that space, the same way you would do for a child care center. You would go and you would tour the space. So if you have some time or you just want to carve out some time, I definitely recommend, if you have questions or concerns or just curious, go and tour the space. And if possible, take your child with you. And then use this time when your child is away at camp. Maybe that's a time you can focus on work or self-care or special projects. Just think about it, from a way you can benefit also. Also, it's possible you're going to miss your child, especially if this is their first time going away doing something. You may miss them. And it's normal. So if you miss them, just know, you know what? I'll see them later and it's fine. And then also sign up for the mailing list. That's a really big deal. If you sign up for mailing list, then you have the opportunity to get information early about camps, especially when you think about planning ahead for the future. If you sign up and you're on the mailing list, you're more likely to get notifications weeks in advance about changes to camps, whether it be locations, prices, activities. So any camps that you identify that you really like, or you're very curious about, I would say go ahead and sign up, see if they have a way to sign up on a mailing list. And it could be that they have a social media web page someplace, like a Instagram page or a Facebook page, and if you're okay with social media, I would say sign up on that, because that may be how they communicate, and that may be a way for you to get information early. So signs that it's not time to send your child to an overnight camp: if your child has trouble sleeping without a parent nearby, if they awaken frequently through the night, if they're unable to sleep at a friend's house now, like a family or friend's house, then they may not be ready for overnight camp. If they have significant medical conditions that require extra attention, they may have some medical attentions that is fine. But if there's something that you feel like is significant, or it's just going to be too much, or you don't trust at this time sending them to overnight camp, then you might just want to consider that. If they have trouble being away from you for any long periods of time, like it gives them anxiety or what have you, they're not ready for it. Of course, overnight camp is more than a day camp. That's a lot of time. So that's something to think, that maybe they are or are not ready for overnight camp. And then, of course, if they have any extreme anxieties or, to new activities or strangers, they may not be ready yet. It does not mean they won't be ready in the future, but maybe not yet. And then a little note here says, only you will know if your child is ready for camp, so don't force them to go. You as the parent are the best person to judge if your child is ready for a camp, or if they can adjust, even if they're a little nervous initially. You are the best person to kind of judge that. It's normal for them to be a little nervous, or even for you to be nervous or have a little anxiety about going to camp, whether it be a day camp or overnight camp. But just know that's normal and it will be fine. Also, keep in mind that camps usually have a system in place to help children to adjust when they're having a hard time. And usually they'll tell parents, we got it, go on, we got it, because they've done this for a while, and they know how to work with the child. They know how to give the child time to adjust. They know how to just kind of keep being patient and keep encouraging them. And then oftentimes, eventually, the child does adjust. Now, there are circumstances when a child does not adjust, and in that case, they will reach out to you, the parent. So here's some things. I asked some of the camps that work with us on a regular basis and send us information about their camps to just maybe consider answering some questions. What do they wish parents knew before they sent their child to camp? So I asked the question, what do you wish parents knew? And the first question I asked is, how do you select a camp? How do you select a camp, and what should you look for in a camp? And so here's some of the the answers I got from camp directors. Prioritize what works in your schedule or your partner's schedule first. Look for activities that your children don't always get exposed to at school. Don't always pick your children's favorite. Think about helping them expand their knowledge and their opportunities. Parents should consider their child's interests and not their own. So that was the first, those are some of the responses I got for the first question. The second question, what do you wish parents knew before they sent their child to your camp or activity? And here's some of the answers. Your child will be okay without you, even though it might be a really new experience or they are shy or nervous. We do everything we can to ensure a smooth transition. Here's another comment. We will absolutely call or text if there is a challenge that is overwhelming. They expect children to be polite and treat others well. And then they hope that the child will be very interested in the topic and they may excel in the subject in school and they want to learn more. So here's another question. What do you need from children attending your camp or activity? One camp director said the passion and energy to try something new. And another one said curiosity and a desire to learn more about all different types of science. So obviously this was a science camp. And I asked, is there any other advice? And one, they said, prep your child for the transition. And I've talked a little bit about that already. They also said, evaluate the facility schedule and leaders of the camp. Is it a nice, safe, clean facility? Are the camp leaders qualified? Is there a good variety of activities throughout the day? So here are some other questions, just in looking at different articles and things talking about summer camps. This one said, here's 10 questions to ask when looking for a summer camp. Question 1, what is your camp's philosophy and mission? Number 2, what is the camp program and what type of child is successful in your program? Number 3, who is the camp director and what type of training education does he have? Number 4, what is the staff composition? So the makeup of the camp. 5, camp attendees. What is the staff composition? And number 5, what enrollment options do you offer? And that would be like full-time, part-time. And that's why I mentioned earlier, like know the details, know what's flexible, what's not flexible, that type of thing. Number 6, how do you handle special considerations? And that considerations could be special needs. It could be just special assistance, accommodations, what have you. Number 7, what are the safety procedures at camp? Absolutely want to know that. Number 8, what percentage of the campers return each year? That's a great question. It may not be indicative that there's anything right or even wrong with the camp, but it's nice to know that maybe that could indicate people really like the camp. Children really like it, parents really like it. Number 9, is your camp accredited by the American Camp Association? Now that's going to be very rare. That is by no means needed for a camp to be wonderful or successful, but that's just a question you can ask if you want to. Number 10, may I have references? And these references could be other parents that have taken their child there that you can just have a conversation with. All right, here's some benefits of sending your child to camp. For one, there's an opportunity to boost their self-confidence because for one, they have to do a lot of independent work. They have to, do things they maybe haven't done before. They have to do problem solving and they get to realize, I can do it. So sometimes it just boosts their confidence. And it could be that they meet new friends and they create new friendships and that could boost their confidence. Another benefit is it helps your child appreciate nature and outdoor activities if it's that type of a camp. Promotes physical health and well-being. Learn new skills, life-sustaining skills, improve fine and gross motor skills, improve cognitive skills. Child becomes more independent. Learns to work with others and share or collaborate. Make new friends or bond greater with current friends. And they learn to appreciate their parents and the small things. Sometimes children don't realize just how much you do for them. Or they just may appreciate you because they miss you because they're away from you all day. So here's another slide that talks about benefits. And this one says campers obtain the life skills needed to become successful adults. So as successful adults, we have to learn how to be in sometimes new situations. We have to learn how to lead. We have to learn how to follow. We have to learn how to cooperate. We have to learn how to get past disappointments, all those kinds of things. So learn some life skills to help them on their journey. Also, number two, camp educates the whole child. So like that's that mind, the mental, the emotional, the whole child. Camp allows kids to unplug from technology. Oftentimes, like I mentioned, the camps don't even want them to bring their phones or their tablets or anything else like that, or they can bring it, but they can only use it at certain times. And so it gives them an opportunity to unplug. At camp, there's plenty of time for play, which helps children with social and emotional development. We know that sometimes children and adults, we live such scheduled lives. Oftentimes, there's very little time to play. And so, research shows us that children really develop by having unstructured playtime or just having playtime in general and not just academics. Oftentimes in schools, so much of the time is based on academics. And so this gives them time where even if they're doing academics, it's not based on a grade. It's just for fun. If you mess up, it's okay. And so that's a good one. Number 5, children can reinvent themselves at camp. So let's just say it gives an opportunity to discover, learn new skills. Maybe they don't have the best time in school. Maybe they don't like school as much, but now they can be a different version of themselves, or they can explore things. They can meet new friends, and so they can reinvent themselves sometimes, or even just expand themselves. Camp promotes independence. Okay, so unintended benefits to the parents. I kind of started alluding to this earlier a little bit. Time for yourself while the child is at camp. And whatever you do with that time is up to you, whether you relax or you use it to do some sort of activity or self-care or what have you. Or maybe you have to work, maybe you're working on a work project or a home project, but a benefit is knowing there's someplace safe and people are taking care of them so you can work in peace and not be concerned about them. And also maybe just do something fun with a friend or a partner. So I just want to show this slide here because this shows us UK Camp Directory. This is just a screenshot in case you have not visited our webpage yet. Our UK Camp Directory, I will send this out, and so you'll have this link. But I also put the link in the chat, so you're welcome to just click on it from the chat. But this just shows you, if you were to go to this page, what you will see. Right now, we have 46, I think, camps listed on the site, and we may continue to get a few more as few more camps just list their information. But just want to show this to you. And then we also have some quotes from some parents that have utilized our camp directory, and I'll just read the first one. I love all the summer opportunities that Lexington provides for our children. I was able to find these opportunities online through the UK Camp Directory. They have details such as the programs, offerings, and prices, so you do not have to search for them. What a great parent resource. So we do have lots of parents that oftentimes will reach out to us or email and say, thank you for offering this. Thank you for pulling this information together. But also want to make sure it's clear that our site is not completely exhaustive. So we only have what people have chosen to share with us. But if you join our Working Parents Network, I oftentimes will post whenever I hear about a camp in the community or a link to find different camps, I will post that link on the Facebook group or the MS Teams group. So if you're comfortable and you want to, and if you haven't already joined that group, I definitely encourage you to do that. It's also a great space to ask questions of other parents about resources or camp if you are curious about a camp, you can ask, has anyone sent their child to this camp? What do you know about it? And then parents will just respond to you. And because it's only UK employees in there, that's a nice piece of it as well. All right, now that we're at the end of our presentation, I just want to pause and see if there are any questions from any of our attendees today. And if you have questions, feel free to just unmute yourself and ask the question. You don't have to type in the chat.